Welcome, everybody. Thank you all for joining us and happy World Water Day. World Water Day 2023 is all about accelerating change and inspiring individuals to take action to solve the water and sanitation crisis. So one of the ways to meet this call to action is to monitor the health of our water sources. So the National Lake Blitz is a great way to better understand the state of your local lakes and those water sources and why we need to protect lake ecosystems in a changing climate. Perfect. So some of you may know, just moving my slides here really quickly. Sorry, guys. Perfect. Wonderful. My apologies there, a little tech issue. Hi, everybody. So my name is Camille. I'm the National Lake Blitz Program Manager. I'm based in Trail, BC, on the traditional, ancestral, and unceded territory of the Ktunaxa, the Syilx, and the Snipes. So I've been working in water stewardship and the nonprofit water sector since 2019, and I really do have a passion for community capacity building and conservation. I'm joined today by Katie Martin, who is Living Lakes Canada's Lake Blitz Program Coordinator. Katie's here to help with moderating the chat. And if you have any questions or any technical difficulties, you can definitely reach out to Katie, and she'll also be relaying your questions to us at the end. We're also joined by one of our Lake Blitz volunteers, Megan Blackmore, who is based in Kamloops, BC. Hi, Megan, thanks for joining us. She'll be speaking about her experience as a Lake Blitz volunteer in 2022, right after this presentation and before our question period. Perfect. Let me just see if this is changing over. Perfect, there we go. So I just want to also thank all of our amazing funders and partners for whom this project would not be possible. So we've got some of our partners and funders listed there. So here's a quick overview of today's session. By the end, you're going to have a better idea of what this opportunity is all about and get your questions answered on what the Lake Blitz is, what Lake Blitz volunteers do, and how you or your organization can participate. So the purpose is really just to provide a high-level overview of the program and more information to those who have registered for the Lake Blitz in 2023 and inspire those who haven't yet to sign up. So this is just a short 15-minute presentation, and then we'll have 15 minutes for questions at the end. But if you have questions while we're going through the presentation, you can pop those in the chat as they come into your mind, and Katie will be presenting those at the end in our question period. And if you prefer to ask your question aloud, you can unmute during the question period once all of our chat questions are answered. That's a little bit about how that will work. So for those who aren't familiar with Living Lakes Canada, LLC, which is our acronym, is a charitable organization based in the Columbia Basin, and we focus on bridging the gap between science and action to foster community-based stewardship. We work to facilitate collaboration in monitoring, restoration, and policy development initiatives for the long-term protection of Canada's water bodies that are impacted by climate risk. We've been leading water stewardship initiatives for almost 2 decades and have worked on specific projects across Canada and throughout British Columbia. So this slide includes the initiatives both on the regional and the national scale. We're also affiliated with the German-based Global Water Futures, Living Lakes International, and 120 NGOs sharing best practices for lake stewardship. So if you want to learn more about LLC's other projects and programs, please visit our website. So the program that brought you all here today is the newest citizen science program, the National Lake Blitz, that started as a pilot project in 2021. So it's pretty new. The goal of the Lake Blitz is to encourage the widespread monitoring of lakes across Canada using simple tools so volunteers can easily understand the impacts of climate change on lake health and biodiversity. It's a low barrier entry level community science program that works with volunteers across Canada that are keen to monitor their local lakes. The volunteers are going to bring their enthusiasm and their leadership while we provide the tools, training, and ongoing support over the sampling season. Programs like the Lake Blitz are really trying to bring the climate change conversation out of scientific and academic silos and broaden the conversation that we really all need to protect our water for future generations and give people the means to act on this information. So it's the data collection and the education component as well. So the concerns related to climate change impacts on lakes that we're really focusing on in this program is rising water temperatures that decrease oxygen levels for aquatic life, and invasive species that spread that push out native species, impacting biodiversity, and algal blooms that decrease oxygen levels and can be toxic to humans and animals. So these impacts are leading to drastic loss of biodiversity, like I said, that we're seeing in freshwater ecosystems all across Canada, but they can be monitored by anyone with access to a lake and simple equipment. Oh, apologies there. Okay, so volunteers, they create a snapshot of lake health by collecting those temperature readings and photo observations at a lake of their choice from May to September. And we encourage our volunteers to go out twice per month. Taking these regular, water photos and temperature readings is a really simple but effective way to understand freshwater ecosystem health. This is because temperature influences the ability of species to live in a lake because of its relationship to oxygen levels. And photos allow us to compare changes over time, track impacts, and back up our observations. Thermometers, data cards, field guides, and detailed instructions are provided in the Lake Blitz kit. And there's also our Lake Blitz team that's always there for extra support over the sampling season. So you don't need a scientific or a technical background or any formal training to monitor a lake. You just need your Lake Blitz kit, a camera, a camera phone, and a lake where you can access water that's at least 1 meter deep. So this usually means having access to a dock or bringing out your boat or another safe flotation device. So getting started in the program is super easy. Volunteers sign up once they have chosen a lake they'd like to monitor, but some volunteers that might not know which lake they want to go to, if it's the right kind of lake. We're there to help you find a lake if you don't know exactly where you want to go and monitor. So definitely reach out to our Lake Blitz team and we can work with you to find one that's close to your home, that has good access and that's on public property. So we want to make sure that it's super accessible. Once you sign up, you register at Lake Blitz at livinglakescanada.ca. So that's our webpage. Registration opened on February 1st and goes until May 1st. And it's this form that you can find on our website or our landing page. It's pretty quick to sign up. And if you have any issues or you have any trouble with registration, please reach out to us and we can help you through that process. Once you register, we're going to be sending kits out. So our kits are pretty much ready to go. We're going to be sending them out at the end of March and beginning of April to people all across Canada. We send them from BC. So if you're in, PEI or somewhere a bit farther, it might take a little bit longer to get to you. But once our volunteers have their kits, they are ready to bring them to our May training session, which it happens virtually. That covers everything you need to know from data collection to data entry, including some best practices on how to gather temperature measurements and take scientific lake photos. So once you have your kit and you're all trained up, you're ready to monitor your lake. So lake monitoring happens from May to September. So you're going to want to go to your location on your lake that is accessible and safe to monitor, where you can gather those measurements at depth. We lay out a schedule for our volunteers. It's usually on the 2nd and the 4th weekend of each month, but volunteers can choose other dates if they work better for your schedule. We just ask that they're spaced out and that they're easy to replicate in future years so that your data can be compared more easily once we start to build quite a big multi-year data set. And we can easily draw conclusions from that data with that scheduling consistency, which is super important. And then, okay, so the temperature readings we're going to gather from our thermometer that's in our kit are our air temperature and then the water temperature. So we gather the surface water temperature, and this year we're going to be adding a temperature measurement at depth. So we'll be asking volunteers to record a measurement below the surface. So there's a string attached to the thermometer, you lower it down, and then we have these fun little tape measures in our kits where you measure from the end of your thermometer to where the string becomes dry, and we record that measurement so that we have context of where we collected that measurement at depth. So that's a new addition this year for those who are joining us again. Photo observations, we get our volunteers to collect the lake shoreline photos. So taking them left to right as well as across the lake to get an idea of the habitat that exists and the level of development along the lake. We also get volunteers to collect their watercolor photo observations, which can really track, levels of maybe increased nutrients or potential algal blooms. So really important data there. We also get our volunteers to look for wildlife and invasive species, and the photos that they take help back up their species identifications. We also get volunteers for the invasive species component to estimate the spread of the plant species, and also to report any priority species to their regional reporting line. So an example of that would be any zebra mussel sightings. So the data can be collected using the data cards that are in your kits or using the mobile data collection app, or you can do both. We definitely encourage volunteers to keep a physical copy on their data cards as a bit of a backup. So once all the data is collected, it is entered into our Lake Blitz observation form before October. Once the data is uploaded, it's going to be displayed immediately on the Lake Blitz observation map, where you can see all of the observations coming in from across Canada, and you'll see the little map image there. We've got all those little blue icons. Those are all data points across Canada. So we're definitely looking to spread more into the prairie provinces and in the northern provinces or northern portion of provinces and northern territories as well. So definitely spread the word for your friends that are living up north or in the prairies. This data can also be explored and downloaded on the Columbia Basin Water Hub. Another aspect of the Lake Blitz is our monthly meetups. So these are free virtual sessions that feature speakers that are working in the environmental or water sector in various capacities. In 2022, we hosted 4 sessions over the sampling season, featuring 8 speakers from 3 different provinces. So we're really excited to offer these again this year. They're really great additional learning opportunities just to broaden your awareness of different topics related to water stewardship. And for those of you who registered, or for those who will register, you'll notice that we want to know what you're interested in learning about as part of that registration process. So that information will inform who will get to speak to volunteers this season. Okay, and some of you might be aware of our Lake Biodiversity Photo Challenge. It's the kickoff event to the Lake Blitz, and it runs from May to July. It's a nationwide photo challenge that encourages anyone with a camera to get involved and show their appreciation for lakes by submitting lake photos. So this year we're adding another category. So we'll have 4 categories to win. They are lake biodiversity, lake impacts, and then we're adding lake landscapes. And then we have our kids category as well for any photographers 12 and under. There's awesome prizes to be won. These are products from Lush Cosmetics, Kicking Horse Coffee, and Teodore. And we're also looking to get more prizes as we start to prepare for the photo challenge this year. So lots of exciting stuff happening with that aspect of the program. So far, we've received 450 photos since 2021. So it's definitely very popular, and we encourage everyone to submit their favorite lake photos this year. Okay, so thanks to our Lake Blitz volunteers, the program is growing every year. We've had 160 volunteers monitor 113 lakes in 8 provinces and territories. Compared to 2021, our participation was 5 times higher, and 5 provinces and 1 territory joined the program in 2022. So lots of growth there. And we've worked with over 20 organizations from across Canada, and we're really excited to work with more. So some of our goals for this year, so we want to see volunteers in all 13 provinces and territories. We're doing this through investing our time in meaningful engagement with organizations and individuals from across Canada that come from various demographics: youth, seniors, Indigenous communities, educators, recreationalists, and those in urban centers, just to name a few. We're also rolling out our level 2 Lake Blitz kit, which includes a SETI disc for gathering clarity data on lakes and pH probes as well to gather pH. So this was inspired by volunteer feedback from the 2022 program, where people wanted to do more. So we're really excited to roll this out. It will be a pilot project, so we just have a small amount of kits at a very reasonable expense for volunteers. And there'll also be additional training as part of this program. So if you register, let us know if you're interested, and you'll be added to that list, and we'll be contacting everyone shortly with more details. Okay, perfect. And then with that, I'd just like to welcome Megan Blackmore to speak about her experience. We had the pleasure of working with Megan in 2022, and she was actually in the top 3 of volunteers who collected the most data at the lakes she monitored. So Megan, I'd like to welcome you to unmute and tell us about your motivation to take part in the Lake Blitz and about your experience. So yeah, we'll try and maybe make you more visible by pinning you to the screen, but I think, yeah, just speaking is perfectly fine for the presentation.
Thanks, Camille. Give me a second for the PowerPoints there. All right.
No, thank you so much. Okay, and we'll try and continue here. Perfect. Now everyone should see Megan. I'll share my screen. Okay, wonderful. That should be ready to go.
Great, thanks. Well, hello everyone. My name is Megan Blackmore. I'm from Kamloops, BC, which is the traditional unceded territory of the Squamish. I'm very grateful to live here. I've lived here my whole life. I monitored 3 lakes last year, which were Stake Lake, Lac Lejeune, and Paul Lake. I monitored Paul Lake with my parents as they live along the shores of it. So it's really great to also get them involved in that one too. I decided to take part in the Lake Blitz because I love finding any kind of opportunity I can to contribute to community science. I know the power of it, and I've seen many amazing projects just like the Lake Blitz that use just regular people who are interested and willing to help. It's incredible what kind of data and all the knowledge that we can gather with that. I grew up around Paul Lake. My family had a cabin there for a number of years, and then for about 6 years, I lived with my parents there. I have so many memories of playing in the water and along the shores and in the surrounding forest. And I know that those experiences really helped me to shape who I am today and grow my passion for nature. So the health of our lakes is so incredibly important, and it's very close to my heart. It's not just important for little kids like I used to be able to explore healthy, intact ecosystems, but it's really important to all of us to have healthy ecosystems, including our lakes. Water is really the source of life. Through my time monitoring last year, I learned a lot of different things. Of course, I learned the stuff you'd expect me to have learned, like the temperature fluctuations and the plant life, the things that we were specifically monitoring for. But I also learned all sorts of other things about the specific lakes that I was monitoring and going to visit every couple of weeks. Things like how the position and timing of when the sun came up in the morning. So I was going really early in the morning. So I got to see this kind of change in the way that the daylight came up and the plants that it touched at different times, and just how like the routines of different wildlife that I'd see. And I keep seeing them every few weeks, and how that changed and how they grew. And it was just incredible to see this whole ecosystem and how it evolved through this one season. So I'm especially excited to be monitoring again this year so I can see those changes and hopefully in more years to come to continue doing this. And this year I'm also planning to do 4 lakes that are all in the line along one road. And so I'm super excited to see the differences between them. because being able to see the few lakes that I did do last year, that it was really interesting, the differences between them with how close some of them were, some that were a little bit farther apart. But the temperatures could be kind of similar based on like the temperatures of the day, and seeing just how they changed through the year and how they were similar. So I'm super excited to be involved with this project, and I really encourage everyone here to sign up because it's an amazing experience.
Thank you so much, Megan. Oh, I really appreciate hearing about your experience, and really just appreciate your enthusiasm. So yeah, that's fantastic. Now, I just like to leave the rest of our session for questions. I see there's quite a few in the chat. So Katie, I'll invite you to maybe start from the top, and then we can do our best to answer all of your burning questions. So thank you all so much for those.
Yeah, so Camille, our first question is, are people able to monitor more than one lake?
Yeah, great question. For sure. Like Megan just said, she's monitoring 4 lakes this season, which is really great. So I definitely encourage people to monitor more than one lake. You can always check with us if there might be another volunteer at that lake. In those cases, we sometimes partner people up to share different days over the season so that everyone gets an opportunity to take part. And then it's maybe, a little bit less monitoring, which can sometimes be nice when you've got a busy summer. But yes, you can definitely monitor more than one lake. A caution here is just to make sure that you sanitize your equipment between lakes, just because of the tendency of some pathogens or other hitchhikers that you don't want to bring to different lakes. They might hop onto your equipment. So you just want to make sure that you're sanitizing your thermometer. You can do that with like a really simple, 10% bleach solution, letting that dry, between monitoring sessions or just as you're on the road. So that can be pretty easy to set up, and just definitely a really important part of, interacting with different water bodies.
Awesome. That actually answered another question that we had in there. So,
oh, great.
So you can use one kit for more than one lake, but make sure you sanitize it.
Yeah, you bet.
Yeah. So do we validate the data that's submitted?
Yes. Yeah, exactly. So, the data that's submitted, it's automatically displayed on our observation map. But as the data is coming in, and this will be a big thing that, our wonderful Lake Blitz program coordinator, Katie, you'll be doing, is checking the data to make sure that, there's a quality assurance and a quality control with the data that's coming in. So if there's any, kind of funky readings or any missing data, then we can contact our volunteers shortly after they submit their data, and then work to, fill those gaps, or to just follow up with, maybe your thermometer is acting a little bit funky and we need to send you a new one. So we're always looking to make sure that the data is checked over, and that what we're putting out there onto our database is as accurate as possible. Yeah, we also will be checking the invasive species observations. One thing that we're going to be suggesting in our training is, some apps that you can use to help with your invasive species or species ID, such as, iNaturalist is a really popular one that you can use in the field to help with your observations and start to build your knowledge base if you're a little bit new to wildlife and plant species ID.
I love that.
That answered that question.
Yeah, probably sound. A lot of people are wondering, do you need to measure in the same spot on your lake?
Yeah, so that's a good question. That consistency is a really important part of data collection. So yes, definitely the same spot, but you don't have to be down to the centimeter or the meter. So just picking a location on your lake that you can go to consistently. So that could be a dock, or if you don't have access to a dock, we definitely recommend doing your best to get measurements at depth. But if that's the case, and you just want to find like a landmark that's consistent to go to every single time. So if that's like, a bench, a sign, or maybe like a big tree, although sometimes trees can, be cut and they might not be there year in through year out. So definitely some permanent fixtures to help you identify that location. It'll also help others who might, take over your monitoring in future years to find where that spot was. So that's super important. Yeah, I hope that answered that question.
Who has ownership over the data that is collected?
So it's public. That's a really great question. It's a public data source. So it's open to the public. So anybody can go onto our Columbia Basin Water Hub, where you can download the data, and we'll be covering this in our trainings as well. Where you can download that and then use it to do data analysis, to see the temperature fluctuations, and use it in any way. That's a really important part of the Lake Blitz, is just making more data available on freshwater lakes across Canada, because we're currently living in like a data deficit in Canada. About 64% of our sub-watersheds are data deficient, so we don't know enough about our water. So that's one of our goals, is to make that more publicly available.
Awesome. Can you give us some details on kit costs?
Oh, great. The kits are free for the level ones. So yeah, we send those out. Those are totally free. Those are our new kits, which are a belt bag with the thermometers, the measuring tape, the field guide, and the data cards, and a pencil. But the Lake Blitz level 2 kits, those are around $65, and they include the SETI disc and the pH probe, along with everything else that I mentioned that's in the level 1 kit. And they come in a dry bag, which is pretty cool. But that is about half the cost of the materials themselves, because we wanted to have a bit of a cost to the level 2 kits. People can keep those kits. They can keep all of their kits, level 1, level 2. But we just recoup some of the cost there without making it inaccessible for folks to have this equipment that's super easy to use and has a good level of accuracy.
We did have someone ask if their kit can be used for multiple lakes, which I'm pretty sure you answered, but if you do want more detail on that, I'm sure Camille can speak further about that. So moving on to the next question, can someone commit to regular monitoring on one lake, but throughout the May to September season, can they visit different lakes once or twice and not get the full set of data?
Yeah, that's, we've had a lot of people, we completely understand that, these summers get busy. Sometimes people can't complete their full data set. I would definitely still encourage you to gather some observations. The benefit there is that this is going to help us identify lakes that, have been monitored, at least once through the Lake Blitz. And that'll be easier for us to pinpoint those as, potential lakes for other volunteers that might be able to collect, a full data set in future years. So we definitely encourage, putting lakes on the map as part of this project, and, gathering those lake photos of that lake. I mean, that's also a really important piece of data. So that, a short answer is yes, for sure. Help us get some lakes on the map there. It's definitely very helpful. But of course, we want that full data set so that we can sort of see how things are changing over time.
What is the best way to learn about invasive species?
Yeah, that's a good one.
Especially plants. And this person is coming from Saskatchewan.
Yeah, that's a good one. You know what, Megan, I might put you on the spot here, because I know you do a lot of really great work with the Invasive Species Council of BC, correct? Do you have any suggestions there?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I'm based in BC, so I know more of the resources here, but across all the provinces, there are different regional districts and organizations that work in different provinces for their invasive species in those areas. So definitely reach out to your regional invasive species organizations simply by even just Googling, Saskatchewan invasive species. You'll probably get some search results of organizations in your area, and reaching out to them and seeing what resources they have. I know from experience of working with our regional districts and the organization that I'm with, we'd love to talk to anyone about invasives. So absolutely reach out to them. I'm sure they'll have great resources to help you out there.
Yeah, that's great. Thanks so much for that, Megan. Yeah, and the field guide that volunteers get, there are like all of the regional invasive species lines for reporting, and there are links to, you know, the Canadian Council on Invasive Species. They have a website that have a really great directory to who your regional invasive species organization is too. So we'll be covering a lot more of that in our training in early May for the Lake Blitz. So we recognize that is a knowledge gap for some volunteers. So we really want to invest the time in providing more information on how to identify different species, because it definitely takes time.
It's actually Corrine here. So to go on further with that question, you talked about iNaturalist. If you use iNaturalist, I don't know how to use it to like identify a species of plant. I've used it for birds, but not for plants.
Yeah, great. I mean,
like, I don't know, is there a way that, I don't know if anybody can just quickly describe or how you do that. People have been telling me that, but I don't quite understand how to do it.
Yeah, you bet. And we can cover more of that in our training too, but
Okay.
I'll just quickly, I've used it. You essentially just take a photo and then it recognizes the image there and gives you some suggestions. It also identifies if other people have used iNaturalist and seen other species there too. Yeah, so it's pretty cool. It's pretty quick. And then you can just look through the options.
Okay, because yeah, I'm more familiar with doing birds and mammals, but I'm not, the plants are just, and doing lakes and around marshes, that's what you see the most. Totally. So I would like to be able to learn that instead of going, I don't know what I'm seeing. So that would be perfect.
100%. That's
great.
We'll definitely cover that in the training. So that's awesome feedback.
Hey,
there.
Thank you.
Awesome. Well, I see there's a few people, joined the meeting. Our session is sort of coming to a close here. So all of those questions that you put in the chat, we will get back to you. If you want to reach out to us at lakeblitz@livinglakescanada.ca, we'd love to answer some of your questions. And also for those who came in a bit late, we have been recording this session. So we'll definitely be sharing that with everybody and who maybe came in late or couldn't make the session, so that we hopefully answer some of those questions there as well. But again, I'd just like to thank everybody so much for your time. I know this was a pretty quick little session, but there will be a hour-and-a-half volunteer training session for those who are registered and for those who are interested in registering. So definitely encourage you to sign up. Registration will close on May 1st, just so you know, so mark that in your calendars. And we're just looking forward to working with everybody. Thank you all so much. Have a wonderful rest of your day.